So I gotta admit, we don't probably have that much of an understanding of actually what's happened. We gave this award knowing that a lot had happened, that you had done a lot, but I don't think we really know how much you've done to keep everything going. Could you just kind of walk us through that first, week and month and where it's gone from there?
Sure. So, um, actually, about 2.5, 3 years ago, our county court actually purchased a our first Cisco WebEx system, and we envisioned this. We bought it for the purpose of interpreters because we had a lot of underused languages where the interpreter was in California and things like that. So it was actually a mobile system. And then COVID hit, and March, we quickly deployed that because we needed to keep the jail going, the jail hearings. And then the jail, at that time, everything hit. Nobody could get cameras or anything like that. So the jail couldn't get any cameras or anything like that. So we ended up getting a web camera from one of my family members and took it down there and set it up. So we kept the jail cases flowing pretty well. To just give you a breakdown, so March 20th, 2020 is when the first order came out from Judge Lohaus. She was the presiding judge at the time.
Mhm.
We reopened in March 1st of 2021. So that put us at about 51 weeks. The jail appearances never stopped. So using WebEx and remote attendance or video appearances, we've held over 16,500 hearings from the jail alone. So that doesn't include us holding hearings for people that were in the state penitentiary, because now we decided that it was a good opportunity to leverage some of these people that maybe were serving time in the penitentiary, York Center for Women and things like that, who might have driving or suspension charges, driving or suspension warrants. And so that allowed the public defenders to start cleaning up some of those cases and outstanding warrants as well. So then mid-November of 2020, we added probate. So when we added probate, we added a requirement that all attorneys had to pre-test with me prior to appearing via WebEx. We knew that the technology knowledge across attorneys and witnesses and parties varied greatly. So we were required to do a one-time test, and I set up the test meeting. They would come in, it'd be a 2 to 3 minute test, and we would go into the spiel of, we do block scheduling. You're going to be in the lobby. Here's what the lobby looks like and things like that. So we pre-tested from November 2020. We pre-tested over 325 people. About 280 to 300 of those were attorneys. And again, that was just a one-time requirement. So WebEx there has gone through about 14 weeks. Well, we were able to hear 1,050 cases in those 14 weeks. And so I can just tell you that one of the cases, because we were able to hear it via WebEx, one of the cases was a guardianship case. This probably isn't for publication, but it's a guardianship case where the parents gave guardianship to the grandparents because of dependency issues. Well, then the parents, actually the parent, resolve the independency. The dependency was clear of that dependency for like 6-7 years, and so it was a positive way to terminate. So the guardianship got terminated and went back. The child's back with the family, back with the parent, and so we were able to hear that case, and everybody was in Florida at the time. So had that not been, that would have been continued until now.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about 6 months of reunification that went on. So I just pulled the stats on our WebEx. So just keep in mind that we've been doing WebEx since March 20th of 2020. But in the last 6 months, we've done 79,000 minutes of hearings, 1,331 hours of hearings is what it equates to. And that's just going back 6 months.
Do you think that the volume is similar in terms of cases? There's some that are maybe backed up but is it sort of been kind of business as usual in terms of volume in?
Well, business as usual has started March 1st, with the exception of civil jury trials.
Mhm.
So right now, civil jury trials, we probably won't hear a civil jury trial until September or October, because the district court is the jury commission for both the district court and the county court. So collectively, it was, and rightfully so, it was agreed upon that we were going to focus all of our juror resources on criminal cases, and then take it one step further, focusing on parties that are in custody, those jury cases, and try and resolve those.
Yeah.
To date, even though we've had criminal jury cases set, all of ours have resolved. So we're still doing very well. That communication between the prosecutor's office, the public defender's office, and things like that continue to be incredible. So, obviously I talked about the technology standpoint, or the technology piece of it, but quite honestly, the staff piece of it never stopped. So you have all of these arraignments, all of these trials, and all these other things. Staff had to go into the system, generate all the continuances, reference the administrative order of the presiding judge, send out those notices, mail all those notices, and then field all those phone calls of when do I come in, when do I don't, and things like that. So, I mean, you can ask anybody at the Supreme Court. I refer to my folks as rock stars because they're the ones that are phenomenal. I'm lucky that I have a technology background, so I brought that to the table, but that's a small piece compared to what everybody else has done in the court.
Sure. How was the teaching on the judges' side, getting them fluent with the technology pretty quick because they just had to, or was there any care and feeding with some?
Well, no, because the judges didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So what happens is we continue to take we continue to have the opinion that once the judge takes the bench, all they should have to worry about is the case. They shouldn't have to worry about technology. They shouldn't have to worry about anything like that. So so we would go in there, like in courtroom 31, which is our jail courtroom. We have a system that's already in place. It stays there. The jail calls in every day, and quite honestly, I don't know if we're going to go back to the jail. A lot of people seem to like it. The only negative that we've heard is it takes a little more work for an interpreter, because interpreters on WebEx, the jail is on WebEx, and so you have that delay. But in the big scheme of things, we've been fortunate that we've got great connectivity and things like that. So the judges, I mean, we at the early part of it, we had a good rotation that the judges that were technology savvy did appear a few times from home, not very much. A lot of them came in just because it was easier for them.
Yeah.
But though that rotation happened to be good, that they did, like we had one judge that appeared at the jail, and the judge had WebEx on the phone, had their court-issued laptop. The court-issued laptop was Skyped in, and the screen was shared with the bailiff in the courtroom. So the judge was able to see docket, the past history here, and make sure. And so she had all that, on a table and good to go. So we've been really fortunate. I mean, we haven't, with people in jail and their first appearances, how it is. That's really a piece that you can't stop that.
Right.
I mean, the defendants have rights, and so much of the cases that are resolved down at the jail where time served is, okay, Bob got arrested for trespassing. Okay, he was, may had one too many to drink and fell asleep in a building. Well, you don't want that drawn out. So you come in, time served, and then that reduces the risk of COVID spreading down at the corrections facility. So, I mean, it all, as it all kind of blended together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the ripple effects of being efficient with this process was super important. And say, how many employees or how many staff are associated with county court and your office
70.
altogether? 70?
70. I'm authorized 82. But any given point, we fluctuate right around that 70, 75 mark.
Yeah. Well, and I keep saying, if I had been in the position that, I had to come into the office at the start of this thing when I was just freaked out by it all. I don't know, you guys are required to be in a lot of times or be there in some way. And it just had to keep rolling forward, right? You can't
Yeah.
stop. The volume has to keep going.
Yeah, we were pretty fortunate that the lines of communication between all of our offices, meaning prosecutor's office, court, and whatever, engaged with Chief Justice Havocan down at the Supreme Court. So they supported. It was pretty quick that once we communicated our concerns, they were pretty responsive at doing 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So we did have a rotation schedule there for a while. The building commission has been phenomenal. We ended up being on a rotation. So to this day, every Thursday, criminal traffic gets sprayed down. And then if we had a positive test, usually one positive test didn't trigger it. But if I had like 2 in one area, I would just call Mr. Cohen, Paul Cohen, and then they paid for a company to come in and what they call deep clean. It's the suits and everything. So I think that helped considerably to try and lower the stress factor among the staff. And then we just started buying. We didn't care what the cost was. We just started buying off Amazon and everything, the gloves, the wipes, the spray. A lot of staff were going anywhere they went out shopping. They would just look for Lysol wipes and things like that. And then the Supreme Court was able to get a influx of these items. So then they started shipping those items to us. So actually, in the big scheme of things, we were forward thinking enough that we were able to not get too far behind the curveball, whether it was sanitizing or stuff like that.
Yeah. Small claims court, was there any of that going on via WebEx, or how did that get affected?
No, and I'm going to screw up the terminology because I don't know civil as well as I do criminal traffic, but everything stopped. Small claims and the non-essential civil cases. There's some civil cases that there's a statutory requirement that a certain matter has to be heard within 10 days and what have you. So, our civil cases dropped off easily by 50, 60%. So
Gotcha.
we were only doing essential cases, essential hearings. At one time we were well below the 50, we're operating by at 40%.
Right. And then you have the moratorium on evictions, right? And that obviously is affecting the volume as well.
Yeah. And, I think it's, now we're back, like I said, now it's going to be playing catch up, and it's still going to be navigating those civil jury trials, the car accidents and things like that. But, I'm pretty lucky. Out of all 12 judges, all of them are engaged. They're all really reaching out to attorneys, whether it's probate, whether it's civil, whether it's criminal, and saying, are you sure you folks have reached an impasse? Are you sure you really need this jury? Can you cut? So there's been a lot of pretrial conference calls, pretrial hearings, and then there's cleanup. It's kind of are you sure? Is this kind of like the prosecutor? Is this your final and best offer type thing? Everybody's waiting for that price of the car to go down a little bit more. It's like, again, right now, or even during this whole thing, the prosecutors are still making deals at the window. So Bob comes in, no proof of insurance, no valid registration, no plates, no accident involved, just got stopped for tags or whatever. They'll drop 4 out of the 5 charges, $50 fine. I'm talking driver suspensions, things like that. They come to the window. I'm a clerk magistrate, so they reach that deal. I have approval to accept those pleas. So we accept the pleas at the window, they go to the next window, get a time pay agreement because we know that people are laid off. So the presiding judge increased the time pay. So now we're given like 120 days right out of the chute instead of 90. And so, I mean, it's for as much stuff as we have going on, I've never seen a level of understanding from the bench, from the prosecutors to the defendants. I mean, we get that people lost their jobs, and you know, it's just good to see that we can offer some options and alternatives to people facing a tough time.
And I'm hearing you about going forward, attorneys need to be reasonable in their expectations, pack their patience in terms of scheduling and everything like that. But yeah, like I said, really make sure that you gotta go to trial. Make sure you gotta go to trial. We're not wasting time here.
Oh yeah.
Well, any idea of when you think back to normal happens in terms of getting completely caught up?
Every time I think back to normal, I see a news article that says now we have a new strain from Africa, or we have a new strain from Mexico, or a new strain from Europe, or you name it. There's a new strain coming from it, and I think that the normal is going to be strongly driven by the CDC and the local Douglas County Health. I mean, Dr. Poor was a godsend as far as giving us guidance and instilling her expertise, and without dictating, okay, court, you need to do ABC. You have to do ABC. She flat out said, I'm not going to tell you exactly, but this is why I strongly recommend. And the judges have always embraced that because they view her as an expert. So normal. I honestly don't think we're going to see anything until January of 2022. I think we have so many jury trials backed up. We're back to normal. We're probably about 80-90% normal back on the criminal traffic side, and same with probate. But I think it's the civil that's going to be lagging behind. That's going to be the holdout.
For sure. Well, and it's one of those things that I know nobody wants to toot their own horn about it, but pretty amazing. You go from not thinking about how this all works, and then boom, now that's front and center. So it took this to get the recognition that should have been given a long time ago, Ron.
I think they undervalued what can happen when everybody comes together. The good thing is Tom, Matt, myself, we have no egos. And that, right. I think that was the key, is everybody came to the table, no egos. How can we balance the statutory rights of defendants? How can we best balance justice with, and not being territorial about it?
Absolutely. No, that's the only way they could really get done successfully.
So we actually had an employee finish the naturalization process. She became a citizen during COVID. And so they would not allow any family members down at the federal building. So right. No family members could go to this. And she's 20 something. And it was an interesting story because she committed to her dad that she was going to become a citizen. And so that was her commitment to him. Well, then he died of COVID before he could see her become a citizen. So then they said, okay, yep, here's your time to come down to the federal building. And she goes, okay, well, I want to bring my husband. They said, you can't. So she went down to the federal building and did her own thing. Well, it just so happened that Judge Bezos was the one who did it. So I reached out to Judge Bezos and I said, hey, would you be willing to reenact it back here for the family? And she said, absolutely. So she came back here. So we have pictures of the family in a mask, and we put them in front of the Constitution, the brass Constitution, put the flags, social distance everybody out on the floor, and reenacted that for the staff. Because that's the kind of stuff that means a lot to me, not all this other administrative stuff. If there was something to reflect on how COVID impacted people,
Right.
that was one of it.
Absolutely.